All right, welcome everyone. We'll give it a minute just to kind of let folks trickle into the room. As that is happening, I want to welcome everyone to this session. We have Chelsea and Gabby here that's going to talk about the Open Education Association, and that's going to be great. It's brand new. I do want to just give you a little logistical items before they get started. So the session is being recorded, and we'll provide the recording of the session probably in a week or so. Please enter your questions into the Q&A box, and we'll try to get to those either during or at the end, whatever kind of the flow works best. But we do encourage you to engage with other attendees using the chat box. And if you have any technical difficulties, there is a section in SCED that you can go to and get help with those. All right, so I'll turn this over to Gabby and Chelsea.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our session today. What does Missouri need from a national association? But before we get started, I'd like to start with just a really quick brief introductions and share a really short presentation to kind of set the context for today's session. So Chelsea, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Chelsea Dixon, and I'm the Assistant Director for Scholarly Publishing and Research at Kennesaw State University, and that's in Kennesaw, Georgia. And I am also a member of the Open Education Association Steering Committee.
And I am Gabby Hernandez. I am the Open Education Community Manager at Spark, and I'm also part of the team helping with the Open Education Association. So oops, sorry. I'm going to drop some links in the chat as we get started. So, like I said, I'm going to set the stage a little today. And before I turn this presentation over to you all, I just want to talk a little bit about the Open Education Association and specifically the National Needs Assessment Survey to kind of give us an overview and a sense of what's happening in the national landscape of open education before we zoom in to the amazing work happening in Missouri. So open education is built on the simple but transformative idea that knowledge is a public good and that sharing it freely strengthens our collective ability to learn, create, and solve problems. Have been advancing this work and often through grassroots efforts and collaborative communities. The Open Education Association was founded in October 2025, so very recently, to help support and connect the work across the country. And the association works to reduce barriers throughout our education systems in order to expand access to knowledge, foster opportunity, participation, and growth for all. We are a professional membership association who aims to bring together practitioners, creators, leaders, and advocates who believe that sharing knowledge freely benefits everyone. And through programs, resources, and member-driven initiatives, we support the growth of open practices and the people who advance them. So our work and members adhere to the following vision and purpose, which is the Open Education Association envisions a world where openness throughout our education systems removes barriers to knowledge and fosters opportunity, participation, and growth for all. And the mission of the Open Education Association is to strengthen and connect the U.S. open education field through strategic coordination, advocacy, and collaborative action. So since when this was still the Open Education Association Development Project, we understood that mapping the field was key to this work to truly understand the landscape of the field and the needs of the practitioners. So we launched the Open Education Association or the Open Education National Needs Assessment Survey. We had really long names, everything. And some of you may remember that. Some of you maybe even participated and shared your feedback. And this survey was targeted individuals who are already engaged or interested in the U.S. open education work and with a specific focus in higher education. And when we conducted the survey, it was spring 2025, and we received input from over 1,000 community members across all 50 states. We're really excited to get that wide response from everyone across the US. And with that, 9 key areas were identified, key areas of focus were identified from the survey. And those key areas were things like being able to efficiently find OER, access to tools and resources, being able to stay up to date about open education, being able to respond to political or technological change affecting open education, access to open education related professional development, being able to secure funding for open education work, just adapting or publishing OER, and just overall networking and collaborating with open education peers, as well as receiving recognition for open education work. So in all of the questions, these were the areas that continuously surfaced as areas that were key within the open education field. Oh, thank you so much for putting the National Needs Assessment Survey results in the chat. I really appreciate that. And so overall, these results, these national results, showed that we had a field that is broad and diverse and is currently providing a significant amount of support for the most important needs from the field. And most survey respondents reported knowing where to turn for support and feeling satisfied with that available support that already exists in the field. So as we looked through these results, we felt that this suggested the greatest need was less about any single solution and more about amplifying and uplifting all of the existing solutions that there are already in our work. So that way the open education field can more effectively utilize them, which we saw as a clear role for a national association. But the survey did indicate a couple of areas that where the association is prioritizing its programming. And those key areas were specifically finding OER, making it easier to find the repositories, responding to change, particularly in providing strategic guidance on how to navigate like funding cuts and political restrictions and artificial intelligence and just our general world that we have that's changing on a daily basis. Finding funding for open education work, particularly it came out as respondents said at an institution, system, or state level, and then as well as accessing tools and resources to support open education work, especially curated lists and how-to guides. Which brings us to what's next. So we did all these things. We found what what are people feeling on a national scale. And so in the association's work, in order to support the open education field and the community, we are building shared resources, which I'll put in the chat, and working on supporting professional growth and creating space for practitioners to help shape the future of open education together. As an association, we want to always focus the work of the association on the needs of the field. We don't want to make assumptions about what we think the field needs, but have conversations to truly understand what the unique context of each individual state and region is and what their needs are and the work that's happening. So a piece of the association's work right now is listening to the community and understanding what's already working well, where people are seeing opportunities, and how broader coordination can help amplify those local efforts. If we don't know about the local efforts, we can't amplify. If we don't know the challenges or know what's happening, we can't make the connections. So we believe that sessions like these are incredibly important. And our goal today is to really learn from you and your experiences, your work, your perspective, and what matters most here locally in Missouri. So as I share a few links, I'm going to leave a little bit of space open for Chelsea as someone who's very well versed in this field, as well as a representative of the Open Education Association Steering Committee to just reflect a little bit on what's happening before we switch it over.
Yeah, thank you, Gabby. So, as a practitioner, I'm really happy to know that there's now an association that can unite my work in the open education field with that of other practitioners. I think that's really important. We have listservs and conferences that allow us to communicate with fellow open education workers, but I think this association will really bring us all together. Um, as members, we can work towards common goals, like the goals and the needs that Gabby mentioned, increasing the discoverability of OER, sharing tools and resources, understanding how to respond to political changes and things like that, attending webinars on pertinent topics. And as a member of the steering committee, I'm really glad to have the opportunity to make real change in the fields, I hope. Um, I think the committee is filled with talented, dedicated, knowledgeable people. It's really wonderful to learn from them. And I think the association has big goals that can help move the field forward. And the association can support those new to the field and veteran open education workers.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. We're so excited to have you as a part of our steering committee. And so now for the rest of the session, we're turning it over to you. I have put a Padlet in the chat and I'm going to stop sharing and reshare my screen for the Padlet. And really, we're just going to take turns having conversation. This is a really nice small group, so feel free to, I think it's possible to raise your hand or put in the chat or put into Padlet to communicate and talk about some of the things that we're seeing, some of the questions that we have. Was I not sharing my screen the whole time? Was I sharing? Or did I not share the presentation, the slides?
Oh, I don't think so.
Well, I'll share them in the chat for you. I was going off. I'm so sorry, guys. I thought I was sharing my screen. I had it up and everything. I was changing. So let me get that for you. I'll put it in the chat. It was just an overview. Here we go. There's our slides. And I will share again, and this time I will actually share the Padlet. Okay, we're getting started. Oh my goodness. Sorry for the technical difficulties. And Kevin. Okay, here it is. Yay, we already have a lot of people in the Padlet. Can everybody see the Padlet? It's sharing properly this time. Wonderful. Chelsea, do you want to start us off in this first section?
Yes. All right. So, where is open education thriving in Missouri? Talking about strengths and bright spots. Let's see as we start to get comments in there. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I sharing the wrong? Hold on just a second. What?
I dropped the
Okay.
Missouri Padlet in the chat.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Chelsea. I have been having technical difficulties today, and I apologize for that. Okay, let me reshare. Okay, here we are. Missouri. We just recently did this presentation at the OER Arizona conference, and so I apologize for having the wrong link. Okay.
right, so it looks like we have some people typing, but there are three questions in that first strengths and bright spots category. So where is open education thriving in Missouri? What work or initiatives deserve more visibility? What wins, big or small, would you like to share? So please feel free. We can't wait to read your responses. All right, it looks like we're getting some comments. Let's see. Where is open education thriving in Missouri? It looks like University of Missouri's Health Professions program has done some great work, integrating OER throughout the curriculum. You have an active statewide action team. That's great.
It's so wonderful to hear about health professions programs because I know a lot of questions come through about what's happening in the health profession field. And sometimes there's not a lot of great resources or places to point to how it's really working in the health professions field. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and the fact that this is the seventh Missouri conference, that's great. I mean, seven years of conferences, that really speaks to um, how open ed is thriving in Missouri. And I see two different people have mentioned the Missouri OER State Action Team. So looks like it also could use some more visibility.
Also, feel free to put links like finishing an OEP course with a faculty member and working on assignments created in Google Sites. That's really amazing. If there's anything you'd love to share, so that way we can amplify the amazing things that are happening. We release newsletters. We also release the OER Digest. Now that's called the Open Ed Digest. And we also have different lists with resources that we're trying to amplify and get out to the field. So if there's ever anything you want to share, please feel free to either put it here or through the suggestion box.
Looks like we have two big or small wins. Um, Donna finished an OEP course with a faculty member, and they're working on an assignment created in Google Sites. We've got another, the nursing program at St. Charles Community College will move to full OER for all courses.
I would say that is a huge win. That is
Yeah,
amazing.
those both seem like big wins.
Yes, congratulations. Okay.
Okay, STLCC added course marking options, free or low. That's a big one. You know, we've struggled with that here at Kennesaw State. It's really hard to get those course markings to be accurate. So if you're able to add them and students can see, okay, this course is free or low cost, yeah, that's really good.
It really is. It was in my previous role as the open education librarian at the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, that was also a huge thing, is trying to get those course markings in and then trying to get all of the students to understand that they were there and what did they mean. And it is a challenge and it's a definite win to share. So thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to move us on to please, and this is going to stay open. So if you have any other ideas or things you'd like to add, you can continue to go to any of the sections. But I'm going to move us a little bit down to challenges and gaps. So what barriers do you encounter most often? That could be time, funding, policy, awareness, support, just anything that could be a challenge. And where do practitioners most need additional support to keep this work moving forward? So in a perfect world, what would you have if funding and time wasn't an issue, what would you need to continue the work to go forward? And what gaps do you see in the open education field overall? Institutional support is a huge barrier. The positive thoughts are there for OER, but no actual support, whether in time or funding. And this is also a huge challenge because sometimes I know that when I was the open education librarian, I had even told some of the administrators, this is as far as I can take it as a librarian, as a library initiative. This needs to be an institution initiative. We need to have, conversations from a higher level in order for faculty to see this as institution-wide, not just a library initiative. So I really relate to that, feeling like we need the support across all different areas of an institution, as well as systems and states and beyond. And so the association is definitely working on how we can raise awareness and remove some of these barriers. Duties added to your professional plate, but nothing comes up. Absolutely. I think most people start the conversation with like, which hat am I using? Because most OER practitioners have like 100. Um, and so it is, there's a lot that is expected. Even, sometimes when I felt as being the course marking, it's why is course marking happening within the library? Like, should this be happening in other places in the institution? Are there other areas that could help with course marking rather than, checking in the library?
Mhm. To add to that, sometimes it is our own doing, but often because we feel like there's an area that really needs our support, we need to really work with, funding or policy or something like that. And so we lend ourselves to that cause or we volunteer. All of a sudden I was an associate editor for the Journal of Open Educational Resources. I don't know how that happened, but I was asked and I said yes because I felt like, oh, we need to raise awareness about the research and the work that's going on with OER, but nothing came off my plate. Uh, I just kept adding on.
And you're still doing an amazing job. I feel like you're Wonder Woman sometimes. I don't know how you're able to do all of the things, but it does, it happens. A lot of us are dealing with a lot. And so some things that, we're seeing as an association is what could happen at the national level. So that way we can take things off the plate of practitioners. And maybe that's wording, or maybe that's, gathering the lists of webinars. So, you can come to one place to find the information instead of having to go to all the different places. So if there's ideas that you have as well, how can an association take things off the plate of practitioners so that way you can, link to or direct to another website that it doesn't have to be, hosted by you or other words that you might need. We're always open to how can we best help and support in a way that is needed by the community. I love this. Where do practitioners need additional support to keep this work moving forward? Student voice. I absolutely. Um, and it's difficult, especially when you have student government. If you have student government, you might have a year or two of a super active student government where open education and then maybe for 1 or 2 years after that, that's not the alignment. They're thinking of other things. They're very busy. And how do you keep that momentum with with our student work, student government? Can be definitely a challenge or a gap. Publishing tools, other available publishing tools. Yes, Pressbooks is really nice, but sometimes if we don't have funding, we cannot have access to that type of tool. There are some open tools available. Definitely there's LibreText as well as Open Author and OER Commons. So those are some, free resources. I don't know, Chelsea, if you know off the top of your head some other free ones, but maybe gathering links to both paid and non-subscription necessary publishing tools to help author could be something we could pull together.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I think Merlot has an author tool as well. It might be free up to a certain point. I've heard of Curriki Studio is another
Mhm.
one. But yeah, I mean, I think it would be great to have all of those listed somewhere that, you can access and see which one fits you and your institution.
I'll make notes. And then it's interesting too, because depending on even the way the resource is going to be taught or used, or even the discipline, it could require a different type of publishing tool to make learning fit the student need and the subject matter. So that's also difficult, finding what are the tools that could be best for your use. And then gaps, do we see? Yes, absolutely. The ancillary package materials is that one-stop shop that publishers have the ability to offer. Like, here's all the teaching materials that you need, so that way you can focus on other things. Um, and there are definitely, this gap, I think, is closing. And then, some people are utilizing artificial intelligence to help create those ancillary materials, but it's definitely not yet at it's not yet done the way that traditional publishers are doing it. So there's definitely a gap in the field there that could be focused on some more. hmm And finding a place for these. I know OER Commons shares different resources and things like that, having different hubs. And so that way, the resources can live somewhere so faculty can pull from them. But then it goes back to what we found in the National Needs Assessment Survey, is like finding the resources and where to look to find the resource can also be a barrier and a challenge. Thank you. Chelsea, do you want to do some opportunities for collaboration?
Yeah. So, our three questions in this category: where do you see the greatest opportunity for cross-institutional collaboration in Missouri? What kinds of connections would be most valuable for practitioners, like role-based, regional, disciplinary, project-based? And what shared win feels possible in the next 1 to 2 years? So it looks like we have some comments for our first question. The greatest opportunity is seems to be lacking, or it's more ad hoc based on existing relationships. Yeah, I can definitely see that here in Georgia as well. Need some organized faculty opportunities to connect in their disciplines. JP says we have a core 42 gen ed curriculum in Missouri and would be great to do more with this. I think that's a really untapped area. I know OpenStax offers a lot of open textbooks for general education, but I think if we can really get into gen ed and make sure that they're using OER, I think that's a huge win. Um, Let's see. OER is in its infancy at my institution. Talking to people who are farther along in the process can be helpful. Yeah, I think it's always good to get those veteran OER users in, and they can influence anyone new to the field or just unsure of OER. Um, Let's see, agree with the core 42 option. Okay. If we could get a large group together to just knock out some of these shared resources. Yeah, I think that's a really good opportunity and a place that OER can really benefit a large amount of students in general ed courses. So what kinds of connections would be most valuable for practitioners? Disciplinary, Missouri curriculum, regional. Yeah.
This um, topic of organizing faculty around disciplines comes up a lot. And even as an association, we've talked about this. Do y'all have any ideas or what this could look like, or even areas to begin? I know that, like connecting with discipline-specific associations. I know a discipline-specific math association who puts on their website, these are association approved open educational resources that you can use, or that we deem as, a great resources. Are there other areas that maybe we could start with as an association to start having those conversations, or what it could look like? What would faculty, what do you see that Missouri faculty would be drawn to? when it comes to having discipline-specific conversations is definitely something we're very interested in.
And it looks like we had a question in the chat. I wonder if anyone has had success in using LibreText ecosystem, particularly adapt homework system. Um, I was actually thinking, I run a conference, this is not a shameless plug, but I do run a conference called All Things Open, and I believe someone presented on Adapt. I'm looking for that presentation now, and I will drop a link to it in the chat if I can find it. But I think I know of someone who has used Adapt.
Yeah, the LibreText ecosystem continues to grow and grow. And so if you go to their website, I think they have like some office hours as well, or a system. So maybe there's some connections there that you can make. And I think they just recently launched like a communications channel. And so those are things too that, the association is trying to gather so that way when somebody does have a question about a specific thing, we can point to where the resource is. Some disciplines have regional associations that could be useful for outreach. Thank you for sharing.
Let's see, someone else commented, wonder if gathering folks in person for an intensive day or day and a half to work on some of these specific areas um, goes back to support, financial, and time. I think that's a great idea. I think in person really works. Mentor-mentee program, I think, would be beneficial as well. I think that would create a good connection.
Yes, we were actually bringing up the gathering people in person for an intensive. We were talking about when OpenStax used to host their Creator Fest. That popped up the other day where it was like an in-person gathering focused specifically on creating or bringing together resources for specific discipline areas. Um, that was definitely pre-pandemic, and definitely that changed a whole bunch of things. But um, having an intensive or like a write-a-thon, I think could really be beneficial too. And interesting things of maybe how an association can help bridge those or support such things, maybe regionally. We can definitely have some conversations about that.
And I did find a link to that presentation.
Wonderful. Yay.
I'll drop a link in the chat.
The way Open Florida does their professional development events, are you talking about how they have like their office hours where it's kind of discipline specific and people talk about various like their various work in that area? And if not, please let us know so that way we can share how Open Florida is doing great things. Okay. I'll go ahead and go to the next section, monthly OER textbook features, OER and AI interest group. Thank you for sharing. So, what support would help most? Chelsea, is this one yours?
Um,
Did I just
I,
do the last one?
I can do this one if you like.
Sure.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, which actually, I mean, it's great because I'm interested to know what support would help most. So, if a national association could help with one thing, what should it be? What kind of national support would make the biggest difference? And how can a national organization amplify local leaders and their work? It looks like we have one answer to that already, which is national recognition opportunities. Um, Maybe things like awards, certificates, or just ways to sort of amplify someone's work. We do spotlights currently with the Open Education Association, so you can submit your work and be spotlighted as a feature in the newsletter or I think on the website as well. Is that right, Gabby?
Yes. Yes. If you are a current member of the Open Education Association, we have a form that you can fill out so that we can spotlight you. And we absolutely welcome anyone and everyone to showcase their amazing work that they're doing. Where is that? Let me grab that for you. I'm a
And
little
maybe,
nervous to, yes, I will give the link. I'll open a new tab over here. There we go.
and while she's doing that, I'll read some more comments. So it's like if a national association could help with one thing, we're getting grants, shared resources, maybe helping bring disciplinary experts together with outreach to disciplinary associations, helping to collect OER repositories, URLs. I think that's a big one. Helping with discoverability, outreach is another big one. And I think those are things that the association can help with.
I'm going to share some links since we're talking about this. Helping collect OER repositories. So that it's definitely something we have thought about and how to best do it. We're still unsure. But we tried and we started with a getting started guide. And I'm going to link that in the chat too. And this is where we attempted to kind of put some things all in one location, but it not be overwhelming. So it definitely isn't a representation of everything that exists in the field, but some places that you can go to find information. But if something deeper or like we like the nation wants an entire list of every single place to find OER, let us know and we can think about how we can better support what is needed. And I would love to know more, telescope holder, if you don't mind, about shared resources. What are there specific resources? Because we are trying to continuously publish new resources to help the field. And so if there's something that we haven't published yet, I can share all of our resources, a link to all the resources. If there's something here that maybe not hitting the mark, or it's like, yes, those are helpful, but we need XYZ, please let us know. I'm also curious about this national recognition opportunities. I talked a little bit about the National Needs Assessment Survey, and recognition was our only outlier. It didn't align with everything else that came up. Everything else was kind of like, yes, this is what we want, this is how well supported it is. But recognition showed extremely, like, it was way out in left field, like that it wasn't important to the field, which we knew didn't quite make sense because in all the conversations that we've had with the community, everyone talks about national or some type of recognition opportunity. So, we took it as this is an area to still to focus because the data didn't match what we're hearing from the community. And so maybe we're just thinking maybe we didn't ask the question properly, but other ideas for what would be beneficial for practitioners, both librarians and faculty members, administrators, what is helpful to you and how would you like to be recognized or showcased in order for it to benefit your work? Thank you. Thank you for coming. And then our last set of questions that we have is looking ahead. So, what is one next step, big or small, you'd like to see emerge from this community conversation? And just anything in general that you'd like to share or didn't get a chance to share? And then, do you have any questions for the Open Education Association specifically? And so, one question that we do have is, does the Open Education Association partner with the Midwestern Higher Education Compact? Yes, we do. The Open Education Association came about because of conversations between Spark and Doers and all of the four regional compacts. And so they have been a part of this conversation from the very beginning, and we're continuously thinking of ways of how that we're not duplicating work, but we're amplifying work. So that way, both all doers and the association and the compacts and other open education organizations and can help work together. But thank you so much for sharing the link. MEC is such a wonderful partner in this work. Yes, I agree. Very grateful for we are offers in just the open education field in general. Connecting to regional associations. Are you talking about the discipline-specific regional associations or just the higher education compacts?
Or maybe gathering them all together and seeing what that might look like. Maybe a
Yeah,
big, not necessarily a conference, maybe a summit of some sort.
possible. And those are some ideas too that we're thinking about in the upcoming year, thinking about if the association is a place where we can pull together or maybe have a summit or maybe bring people together, maybe regionally. These are all conversations that we're having. And your feedback is what helps us move forward because we understand what the community is wanting.
I do want to I know we've already gone past our what support would help most category, but there was a comment that came in for what kind of national support would make the biggest difference, serving as a national clearinghouse or a leader for OER work. Um, and I think that's the plan, right? To serve as that
Absolutely.
leader. Yeah.
Yes, and really it's, the association recognizes that there's some amazing pillars that already exist within the open education field. And that was also part of the landscape analysis as to understanding where are those pillars and what gap exists in between the pillars. And so that's what we saw as the biggest gap from the data was that we need something that can help have a national voice, something that can also align with individuals and something. And so no matter what you do or where you work, if you have an open education hat or role, or if you find a different position, but you still want to be an advocate for open education because that's something you believe in, there's a way to be able to continuously engage in this conversation, whether or not you have a role in the open education field, and creating space to reach out to adjacent fields to help broaden the understanding of what is open education, understanding that this is an entire field and continuing that conversation both internally and with adjacent organizations so that way we can continue to solidify the field and showcase the amazing work that's happening. Well, thank you so much. How can you help? By continuing, by adding, honestly, the best way to help is to continuing giving your voice and making suggestions and saying what you need and what's important, because the more voices we have, the more we can advocate and direct what needs to happen. There's, of course, already things that are in play. We have goals with the association for what our work is next. But the more that we continue to have these conversations, the more we can continue to make sure that we're keeping that pulse on the community and moving in the right direction. Again, going back to what I had said earlier, not making assumptions about what the community needs, but really hearing what you need and moving forward.
Right. Are there any other questions? No. Well, thank you so much, Gabby and Chelsea, for this presentation. This was really great. I love the interactivity of it as well. So yeah, and I've posted a link to the conference schedule. So as we wrap up this session, there are still 3 sessions. Our next one is our keynote presenter. So I hope you all will join us for that one. And I don't see any other questions. So again, thank you, Gabby and Chelsea.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming, sharing your insights.
Thank you so much. And I apologize for the technical difficulties at the beginning. Sorry, but thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of your conference.
Thank you.